Human reproduction. In this lesson, we'll look at the science and engineering practices of constructing explanations and designing solutions, as well as the cross-cutting concepts of cause and effect, structure and function, as well as stability and change. So what is reproduction? Reproduction is one of the 7 life processes. All living things reproduce. Humans use sexual reproduction to produce their young. In order for this, 2 parents, male and female, have different reproductive systems and organs that produce different sex cells. The male reproductive system. The parts of the male reproductive system include the sperm duct, the scrotum, the penis, the urethra, the testes, and the glands. The parts of the female reproductive system include the oviduct, the uterine lining, the cervix, the vagina, the uterus, and the ovary. As a review, here are the different portions of both the male and female reproductive systems. The roles of the reproductive system. What is the function of each body part? The testes are responsible for producing sperm. The ovary is responsible for producing eggs. The urethra is used to carry sperm out of the body. The oviduct is used to carry eggs to the uterus. The glands add fluid to sperm. The sperm duct carries sperm from the testes, and the scrotum is for the protection of the testes. Sex cells, the sperm. In males, the sex cells are called sperm. It has a tail, a middle piece, and a head. There is also a cell membrane that surrounds the majority of the sperm. Inside of the head is a nucleus containing DNA. Sperm are produced in the sex organs called the testes. The sex cells, the egg. In females, the sex cells are called eggs. Inside of the egg is a nucleus containing DNA. There is a membrane surrounding that nucleus. Inside the membrane is a large amount of cytoplasm. There is also a jelly coat around the outside of the egg. Eggs are produced in the sex organs called the ovaries. So which adaptations do sperms and eggs have? Sperms have millions that are produced. They swim with a tail. They are small and streamlined, and they contain enzymes to break down cell membranes. The egg is released one at a time. It cannot move on its own. It has a large size, and it contains food stores. What is fertilization? For a woman to become pregnant, fertilization must occur. Fertilization is the fusing of an egg and a sperm cell. In this process, the sperm's nucleus joins with the egg's nucleus. Females of reproductive age release 1 egg approximately every 28 days. This is called ovulation. Males continually produce sperm in the testes. So how do these cells come in close contact to one another? Sexual intercourse. During sexual intercourse, the man inserts the penis into the vagina. Millions of sperm cells are ejaculated into the top of the vagina. They enter the uterus through the cervix, where the sperm cells may meet an egg. Now fertilization can occur. Fertilization and implantation. During fertilization, the male and female sex cells fuse. In stage 1, during ovulation, an egg is released from the ovary. The egg travels into the oviduct. In stage 2, during sexual intercourse, ejaculated sperm are released into the vagina and start to swim towards the oviduct. In stage 3, the sperm travel to the oviduct and one penetrates the egg. This sperm's nucleus fuses with the egg's nucleus, creating a fertilized egg cell. This is called a zygote. In stage 4, the zygote undergoes cell division and begins to form a ball of cells. The zygote is now called an embryo, and it begins to move towards the uterus. In stage 5, the embryo becomes implanted into the soft lining of the uterus. Here, it develops a placenta and becomes known as a fetus. So what does each reproductive process involve? Ovulation involves the release of an egg from the ovary. Ejaculation involves the ejection of sperm through the penis. Fertilization includes the egg and the sperm nuclei fusing. And implantation is when the embryo sinks into the uterus lining. The placenta. How does an embryo receive food and oxygen, and how does it get rid of waste? All of these are important for living things. An embryo forms a structure called the placenta, which attaches to the uterus wall. The umbilical cord joins the fetus to the placenta. In the placenta, food and oxygen diffuse from the mother's blood into the blood of the fetus. And carbon dioxide, as well as waste products, diffuse from the blood of the fetus into the mother's blood. So how does this work inside of the placenta? During gestation, oxygen, nutrients, carbon dioxide, and waste pass between the maternal and fetal blood. But the two blood supplies do not physically mix. In stage 1, carbon dioxide and waste products are carried from the fetus to the placenta. Oxygen and food are carried from the placenta to the fetus. In stage 2, oxygen and food move from the mother's blood to the fetus's blood. Carbon dioxide and waste products move from the fetus's blood to the mother's blood. In stage 3, the substances move between the mother's blood and the fetus's blood through thin membranes. The two blood supplies never mix. From embryo to fetus. In the earliest stages of development, a human baby is called an embryo. After the first 8 weeks of pregnancy, an embryo is then called a fetus. At this stage, the fetus has all of the main human features. The fetus continues to develop and grow inside its mother's uterus for a total of 40 weeks. So what are the stages of development? How does the baby develop during gestation? Humans begin life as a single cell, but cell division and differentiation during gestation give them a visibly human shape. After 9 months of gestation, a baby is developed enough to survive outside the womb. At 4 weeks, the embryo's heart is as big as a poppy seed and has begun beating. The embryo is surrounded by a membrane called the amnion. This sac contains a liquid that protects and cushions the embryo. Right now, the embryo's length is around 2 millimeters. At 8 weeks, the embryo is now called a fetus. The fetus now has all of the main human features. Its nerves, organs, and muscles are beginning to function. Eyelids are forming. At this point, the length is around 2 centimeters. At 12 weeks, all of the fetus's body parts are now in place, from tooth buds to toenails. Fingernails and toes are separated, and the fetus is beginning to kick and stretch. At this point, the length is around 7 centimeters. At 20 weeks, the fetus is starting to sprout hair, and the nerve cells for all of the senses that are starting to develop. The fetus also starts to be able to swallow and produce urine. At this point, the length is around 15 centimeters. At 28 weeks, the fetus can now open and close its eyes. It sleeps and wakes at regular intervals, and its brain is very active at this time. The length during the 28-week gestation is around 30 centimeters. At 38 weeks, the fetus continues to build up the fat stores that it needs. All of its organ systems are fully developed, although its lungs will develop last. At this stage, the length is around 50 centimeters. So what is the order of stages of pregnancy based on what we just observed? From 4 weeks to 40 weeks, the embryo is 2 millimeters long and its heart starts beating at 4 weeks. Next, the embryo is called a fetus and has human features. Next, the fetus is 7 centimeters long and has all of the body parts that it needs. The fetus is growing hair, nails, and eyelashes. The fetus is 30 centimeters long and its brain is very active. And at 40 weeks, the fetus is fully developed and ready to be born. Effects of the maternal lifestyle. What effects do alcohol and smoking have on a growing fetus? Alcohol can pass across the placenta. Heavy alcohol can lead to the baby developing fetal alcohol syndrome. Fetal alcohol syndrome can lead to restricted growth and learning as well as behavioral disorders. Heavy alcohol use can increase the risk of stillbirth, premature delivery, and low birth weight. Smoking. The substances within tobacco smoke, including nicotine, carbon dioxides, and other chemicals, can affect how well the placenta functions. This can reduce the amount of oxygen reaching the baby. Reduced oxygen affects a baby's heart rate as well as its brain development and growth. Birth. After 40 weeks of gestation, the baby is ready to be born. At this point, the head usually lies just above the cervix. Birth begins with small contractions of the uterus wall, which gradually become stronger and more frequent. Eventually, the contractions cause the amnion to break and the fluid escapes. The cervix then widens and dilates as the baby is pushed through the vagina. After a few minutes, the placenta comes away from the uterus wall. This is pushed out as the afterbirth. What happens during puberty? Humans are born with a complete set of sex chromosomes, totaling 46. 23 of those chromosomes come from mom, and 23 of those chromosomes come from dad. We are also born with a complete set of sex organs. Typically, those organs do not become active until between the ages of 10 and 18. This period of time we know as the adolescence or puberty. In males, the testes start to make sperm, and in females, the ovaries start to release eggs. This stage of development is called puberty and is caused by hormones. During this important time, many changes take place in the bodies of young men and women. So what changes happen to males during puberty? Facial hair starts to grow. Males tend to get more muscular. The penis gets larger. Sperm is produced. Pubic hair starts to grow. And the voice deepens. What changes happen to females during puberty? The breasts enlarge. The hips widen. The thighs get wider. Pubic hair grows. Periods start. And eggs are released. Menstruation. An important part of puberty for girls is the beginning of their monthly cycle. This is known as menstrual cycle. The menstrual cycle involves the preparation of the uterus lining so that it can receive a fertilized egg. If an egg is fertilized, it can implant itself in the prepared uterus lining. If the egg is not fertilized, the lining of the uterus breaks down and is lost from the body. This is called menstruation or a period. So let's look at the menstrual cycle. The menstrual cycle is the monthly cycle of hormonal changes in the female reproductive system. It is controlled by hormones from the ovaries and the brain. Day 1 to 5, the uterus lining breaks down. This is called menstruation. Day 5 to 14, a hormone is released from the brain which causes the egg follicle inside the ovary to grow. The hormone estrogen is released from the egg follicle as it grows and matures. The estrogen causes the uterus lining to thicken. Around day 14, the level of hormones released from the brain peaks, and the egg is released from the follicle. From day 14 to 21, the egg travels to the uterus, and a different type of hormone is released by the empty follicle. This hormone maintains the uterus lining. If the egg is not fertilized, the amount of hormone produced by the follicle starts to decrease. The uterus lining will soon break down again.